Good morning, genealogy friends. It's Sunday morning. It's very early. It is probably 5:05 or something like that. There's a sliver of moon in the sky. Sun won't really be up for about an hour. And I am here to talk to you about not necessarily small business stuff, genealogy business stuff. Although if you are the president of Ancestry and you're watching this, I don't know if any of my advice is really going to be applicable to you. So what I wanted to talk about, things that I feel like you don't need to waste a lot of money on if you have a genealogy business, especially in the beginning. These are all things that I have wasted money on. None of this advice is ever going to be like universally true. And if you disagree with me on these 6 things, or if you had something to add, I would love to hear it. But for me, these are places where I've spent money before, and then in retrospect, that was a dumb idea. The number one is getting a custom website. This is different than having a website. You need to have a website. You need to have a website that's a .com that matches your business name as much as you can. My website is familytrenotebooks.com, and when I was setting it up, I had to make sure that, nobody else had that name and stuff like that. All of that is really smart. The actual website, though, you can get so many websites set up really easily using templates, using free materials. Most of my websites are set up through Shopify.com, which is it's a platform that lets people sell things. I think I use their free templates across the board pretty much. I did not spend a ton of time coding them, designing them, anything like that. I took templates that were available and I was able to customize them to make the site what it was to be functional for my business. In a perfect world, I would love to have a totally custom website, all the bells and whistles and all the things. I don't know how to code that. It's not worth it to me to spend the money right now doing that. It may never be, because at the end of the day, I need my website to explain things to people, to show them how these things function, and to be able to deliver them. My website does all of that. You basically probably don't need a lot more than that. I mean, if you are a genealogy business who, needs a lot of, if you're actually like holding records and you're charging people to be able to search those records and things like that, well then your website is your business, right? Like that is the product. So then you're in a class of your own. But a lot of us are out here selling a product, selling a class, selling coaching, selling hourly services as genealogists. You just need to have somewhere to send people so they can learn about you and decide whether or not they trust you and feel like you can add value to their lives and then contact you. For tons of businesses, that would be enough. And I've had other businesses where right out of the gate, I spent tons of time and money on my website trying to make things look perfect before I launched. And then the businesses, either did okay-ish or they tanked. Family Tree Notebooks started with an Instagram account and an Etsy page, an Etsy shop. And it was probably a full year before I actually got my Shopify website and got everything set up. And that was fine. So number 2 on my list might be a little confusing / controversial, but I actually think that advertising tends to be a waste of money. Hear me out. Obviously, you want people to know about you, and you can get a really good ROI, a really good return on investment if you know what you're doing with social media ads. You can target people on Facebook. I've had great success with Facebook ads, all of that. The reason that I'm putting this on the list though, advertising is tricky. It's not guaranteed. And if you go into advertising not knowing what you're doing, your ROI, your return on investment, not only you might not get that much, you might actually go the other way where you lose money. Because print advertising, which is like putting your business in newspapers and stuff, that used to be the way to do it. Now it's really hard to know that you're going to get the right eyeballs. Even in the genealogy world, where fairly inexpensively we can get ads into journals, we can get ads into the conference brochures at conferences. It's still hit or miss. I mean, people just have ad blindness these days because we're all being bombarded with ads. You don't want to just keep throwing money at it, because spending more money on a bad ad will not increase your return on investment. It'll go the other way. So for a lot of us, most of us who run genealogy businesses do not also want to become Facebook ad experts, TikTok ad experts, video ad production experts. It really is probably worth your time and money to find that person and have them help you explain what you do to the right people. So yeah, that's my take on ads. Okay, number 3, office supplies. This is kind of funny. I am an office supply junkie. I'm not going to go into this too much, but let's just say I have gone through major phases of feeling like if I bought this office supply, that I would feel more professional and therefore my work would be better. I think if you want to make the investment to make yourself feel better, or because it's your thing or whatever, no judgment at all. Obviously, I get that. I've spent a ton of money on office supplies, and I have never found an office supply that turned around and earned its dollar back. Okay, the next one, designated space. This is like buying an office or renting an office. Some of your genealogy businesses, you might feel like you have to have this. Maybe you really need to have a storefront because you're selling physical goods all the time. You need somewhere for someone to visit. Or maybe in your consulting practice, you really need to have somewhere official so they can come sit down with you and all of that. The world has changed so much. Working from home, completely legitimate. People no longer see somebody working out of their house and just think, oh, well, I thought they had a real job, but I guess they're not. There have been times when I've needed to record, and I've looked into like studio space and things like that, where I'm recording something more formal. To be honest, now, like the last course that I did, where I did a bunch of recordings, my masterclass, I rented a hotel room for like 4 days, and I sat in the hotel room because I just needed a quiet space. I didn't need a sound studio, and that was much more cost efficient than renting a place for a week or a month or whatever. So that's something that I guess everybody has to figure out on their own, but it works for me. Okay, another place not to spend a ton of money is promo items and swag. This is especially true if you're having a booth somewhere, if you're going to a conference, going to an event. Sometimes I think people get really excited about doing mailers and pens and buttons and tote bags and stuff. That can make you look fancy. It can be really fun to give that stuff out. It definitely attracts attention in the moment. I mean, there's nothing like working a booth where you're giving swag out hand over fist because you will be popular. The only time that it usually works, like not only does your thing have to be super functional, it has to tie back to your business. But you guys, it's expensive. People who collect swag in the moment are not always going to make the connection to your business, what you offer, whether or not it adds value, and so on. The last thing I want to talk about is kind of funny. And again, this is a super personal thing. Employees. Employees can be a big waste of money. I do not currently employ anyone. I have people on retainer that help me with stuff, like I have an accountant and stuff like that. It's not enough to just think I need somebody, grab the first person, especially if they're relatively inexpensive, and think it's going to work, because you might spend more time and money training them only to find out that the relationship isn't actually paying out. 2, don't get an employee just because you feel like you need to get someone. You need to make sure you've got really specific tasks for them to do and that you're ready to hand it over. And 3, you might be surprised at what you can handle on your own or what you can outsource on like a every now and then basis without having to employ somebody all the time. Office supplies, designated space, employees, print advertising. These are the things that we were shown made a business 20 or 30 years ago, and it's just not true anymore. And I can be out here at 5 o'clock in the morning with my little camera walking around in circles, and you and I are having a business meeting. It's a whole new world. Anyway, that's all for me. I'm gonna do a couple more miles, go home and enjoy the rest of my weekend. I hope you are well. I hope those of you who are also in hot weather are staying cool, and I will talk to you soon.